Thank you, James. Being at SCAE for a long period of time, the development of membership shows you a little bit, from my point of view at least, where we are in Europe at the moment. It started all pretty, let's say, laid back. People didn't really know what specialty coffee was. In Germany, I joined the German Coffee Association, which is still the biggest association in Europe. When I joined, I asked them about specialty coffee, and they didn't know what it was all about. 2002, 2003, they said this is an Italian thing that's coming over the mountains to us. It's called espresso. I said, aha, okay, so espresso is specialty coffee. And they said, this was the feeling they had. So we started to promote that specialty coffee is much more than espresso, and also there are good espressos, bad espressos, and you have to take a lot of care in preparing espresso. And I think we managed it fairly well, especially when we started in 2005. We started with our education program, and we really brought out the message that education is key. And I had the honor to be one of the chairmen of the education committee. And it was really the thing that got us most to the interested parties was education. And then you see a little bit of a dip in 2009 with the recession that hit Europe very hard and also hit the specialty coffee sector very hard. Many entrepreneurs had a lot of problems to fund their equipment. And since we got over that very quickly, look at what our registrations have done. And I think David is in the room over here, our chief executive, and we're very proud that we can't keep up with registering membership. And membership is not only European, but it's now a global business. Likewise, our friends in the US, the Specialty Coffee Association of America, they see tremendous growth because we are spreading kind of the news around the world that specialty coffee is an industry to be in. In Europe, it's still one member, one vote, and we have lots of small company, barista, individual members. They count for nearly 90% of our membership. So it's not dominated by large companies. It's still a very much entrepreneur-driven industry filled with enthusiasts. And this is something I think we can develop, maybe looking more at the corporate sector, but not forgetting about that we are based on lots of individuals that really want to promote quality in the cup. And that's, at the end of the day, what we want to do. There's a great industry of coffee also in commercial coffees, but we are focusing on a niche that is growing from an industry perspective by far the most attractive segment of the coffee industry globally. If we look at what's affecting the industry, of course, and I won't spend much time on green coffee and the challenges because my following speaker, Maurizio, is much more competent. But what you see here is the development over the exportable quantities over the last 20 years. And you see naturals and robustas having us outstanding growth rates in volume, and you see the small miles and washed Arabicas from high-end coffee farms that really focus on quality. The quantity is shrinking. So what that means is the specialty coffee segment, the importers, the roasters are competing for high-quality beans. And the tendency is the volume's going to be limited, the price is going to be high, and the links between the specialty coffee sector and the farms, the direct import link, is becoming ever more important. And that's a lot of the thing that we see when we talk about collaboration also at a symposium here or our trade shows. It's how do we get that link to the farming industry? How do we make them understand that we get good coffees? Because you can't be in that industry if you don't have your coffee supply ready. Okay, but I'm a machine guy, so I'm not talking too much about coffee. What I did, I exchanged a little bit with some other people in the industry, and as I have the honor to be also on the board of Hobart Group in Germany, and discussed some experiences of where we see the industry is going at the moment, the specialty coffee industry is going. So what we have certainly, as an industry, the focus of a roaster in specialty coffee is a drum roaster, and it's gaining still market share against any other technology. And what we see, which is good, because we've been promoting that for a long time, is longer roasting times. Roasters try to promote higher quality beans. They buy new equipment and they roast longer, which in theory is great. And there's a lot of experimentation going on with profile roasting. So how can I get different profiles of coffee for different ways of extraction? I'm going to show you a very great example of how you can take that holistic approach into your cup of coffee. And the next thing, which is kind of interesting, you don't only see micro roasters investing into equipment, but also large roasters coming back into this segment and looking at how can they benefit from the boom of specialty coffee in their segment. So in Europe, we're looking at 30 plus countries, and my home country, Germany, we have a lot of large roasters looking to buy into this market, and they have to invest into new technology. And we see the bulk of the segment is between 5 and 60 kgs per batch, so still small, medium-sized roasteries. But your growth rate of 20% in equipment over the last 5 years shows that the market doubled in that segment in Europe in the last 5 years. That shows you, like our membership numbers, there's a certain trend in this industry that is outstanding, and that's why it's attractive not only for micro roasters but also for large roasters. Now, the boom that we see, and again, James is my favorite example because he started off as a barista at a company in the UK, then he won the UK Barista Championship, and 2007 the World Championship, and then he became a successful entrepreneur with his own roasting company. And therefore, I mean, we both share the view that there's a lot of micro roasters still coming into that market with different aspects. I was just in Amsterdam at the coffee festival. Berlin is our, at the moment, hottest city in Germany for young startups, and also coming from the digital world that's gaining a huge ground in Berlin. And obviously London is still a very high-end market if you want to start into getting into roasteries. The focus, as I said, was on espresso at the first instance. Today, filter coffee is probably even more in action, even at larger coffee shops. I just went to a chain in Germany, and they started a hand filter program. I was really amazed they did that in their stores with 5 different coffees, ground on demand exactly for the need, and then they try to promote that at their stores. So filter is very much in the coming. And there's a third one, large roasters reinventing themselves as specialty coffee roasters. Now, this is probably the best example of that. And Howard Schultz, who you all know is a founder and chairman of Starbucks, said they are reinventing themselves as a specialty coffee roaster. Now, that's a good sentence. Reinventing Starbucks as a specialty coffee roaster. What does that mean? They started thinking about a new concept, a huge coffee shop. You can't even call it a shop anymore. It's a flagship store and roastery which was just opened in Seattle last year with a bag roaster, a drum roaster inside, with an espresso bar, with a filter coffee sector, and a lot of education about coffee along the value chain, which is a great example of where we are in this industry. And they plan to put out more of these stores around the world. I think at the moment there are 4 in concrete planning. One is also going to be in Tokyo, one in Europe, one and several more in the US. And other roasters are trying to do the same. So larger roasters looking at specialty coffee roasting at that segment as an interesting market for themselves. So this is something to watch out. Certainly some competition will increase, especially in the larger cities, also with people you didn't expect to call themselves specialty coffee roasters. And boom in single serve improves education of consumers and demand for quality roasting. That's something we always been debating. Is single serve good or bad? For me, I think what I've seen, it's good because it increases the awareness of the consumer about quality of coffee in the cup, and it also increases the need to roast and grind a quality coffee, because you need that in that single serve. Otherwise, you can't extract to what you want it to be in the cup. Now, from the machinery side, I prepared this slide because this summarizes it all. This is a development how I see it basically over the last 15 years. We started with grind on demand not being on the agenda for anybody, to really grind your coffee freshly, which is obviously the key to a successful presentation from my point of view. Then exact temperature control came in, espresso machines being exactly dialed in on temperature. Afterwards, filter coffee machines. Profile brewing started, is now, I think, today also a technology used in many, many stores so that the barista can use the water pressure to his needs, can really dial in the ratio as he wants it, and brews the cup of coffee, whether it's filter or espresso, to the profile that he would like to have. Grind and brew by weight is another thing that came in. It's not really a known technology, but it's something that's gonna having more weight. And then, of course, a big thing in Europe, also driven by the political environment, is how can we make all of that approach to a holistic preparation of a cup of coffee with the less possible use of resources. And the main focus we have, of course, is on energy and water. So this is kind of where I see the development over the last years on technology. Now, technology comes into a form of different great-looking machines. And I'm not here to promote any machines, but it's just, these are all the spectacular developments, one in each other, that follow this trend. And post this year, the biggest equipment show in Milano will again show what manufacturers do to follow the trends in the market, whether it's going to be a brewer that can measure temperature and can also measure weight, whether you have a machine that is a hybrid between a super automatic and a traditional machine. All of these great technologies are done by manufacturers to follow the trends that we have. Now, what is the thing that drives baristas and consumers? What's the key to success? In my point of view, the main thing is education and that you deliver a constant quality. Basically, when we started off, the main attraction to people to join SCAE was education and information. Information today is relatively easily available. You are all connected probably right now. You get all the information you want. So the key for me is education. And our education program, the coffee diploma system at SCAE, is really driving the barista sector. And I think at the end of the day, that's all about education. Once you're educated, you see the gentleman in the middle with the beard is from Germany. He won the cup tasting championship. And this is what they do. They are educating and they pass over the education, the knowledge to other people in setups like this, and they share the knowledge. So this is very important that this is passed over to the consumer and other interested parties. Now, when you want to do something, of course, you need to have a solid base for education. And this is our famous old coffee brew control chart where SCAE tried to convince people what is the right grammage per liter for filter coffee. That's from our Gold Cup initiative. Paul is somewhere in the room, and he and I, we tried very hard to promote this so that we have an ideal grammage per liter, an ideal balance between strength and extraction. So this is what we can see. If people have that solid base and they know where they want to go, how they want to create their ideal cup of coffee, then the brewing methods they have, filter or espresso, allow them today, because the industry has developed so much, to use very, very exact equipment to produce exactly the extraction. We say between 18 and 22% is ideal. Some people extract at 24% strength, and sometimes I was told you can even extract today 35 to 40 seconds if you know what you're doing, which at the time when I started was an absolute no-go. Everything above 25, 28 seconds was over-extracted. So easily said, you can use all the equipment to do this and take a holistic approach to a preparation of coffee. And I use this, what we call high extraction, which is basically was not possible in the past, because if you were doing high extraction, all you were getting was bitter roast flavors, tart, dry, flat. You had undesirable flavors in your coffee. Now, this was also coming from defects you had in the green coffee chain, because you had sometimes not the right beans that you could supply. And all of these defects you got when you were having over-extracted, highly extracted coffee. Today, with more exact measurements, you can really experiment with a cup of coffee preparation that comes out even surprisingly. I spoke about longer roasting times, meaning dark roast, but it can also mean light roast. And also when you experiment with these extraction methods, you can really come to a coffee that you couldn't prepare like 5 years ago. So this is something that we have seen that happens is, how do I get there? I want the perfect extraction. I need fresh green coffee with even bean size that I source through my dealers or my direct imports. I can try to experiment with a light roast with reduced solubility. And this, again, wasn't possible in the past, because what I'm looking for is less bitterness, because I have a delay in solubility, so I experiment with that. Now, very important, I then try to get a hold of a grinder that produces a constant, even grind with a narrow particle size distribution. And with the measured roast, the measured grinding, I can go into an accurate brewing using some of the machines that I showed you before to produce a perfect cup of coffee. And this is basically something that we call holistic approach. And it comes from education, because if you don't educate the roaster, the barista, and at the end of the day the consumer, then you can't get it done. The machinery environment allows you to do this. The roasters allow you to do that. The grinders allow you to do that. Espresso and filter coffee machines allow you to do that. It all has to be put into an approach that guarantees that through the value chain you produce a great quality in the cup. And at the end of the day, this is what the associations, the European and also our American friends, stand for, is that we try to promote this education, because this is how we see the industry develop and developing in that segment. And that's why it's so much fun to be in that industry. And I enjoyed that a lot over the last 20 years. And for me, the biggest enjoyment is if I go to a coffee shop of a young entrepreneur that comes out with a personal, very authentic and casual concept. He has a holistic approach, he knows what he's doing, and he puts it over with great investment into the right equipment and creates a successful business. This is from a startup coffee bar in Hamburg that started less than 10 years ago and today employ more than 70 young, dynamic, enthusiastic baristas. And this is for me the greatest thing, because at the end of the day, this is an industry that is growing, that offers a lot of potential for entrepreneurs, for job creation. This is something we urgently need in Europe. We don't have to talk about our economic environment, and I think our industry is a great sector of growth and positive spirit and momentum. And this is a professional side of our business. I still believe there's ways to go in Europe and also beyond in the home barista segment. And I think that's also where we will be developing more and more concept about the right equipment and the right approach to that market. So that's basically what I've been asked to do. I hope I could give you a very quick overview and, like we would say in competitions, time. Thank you.